Death in the royal family is announced with bells, with bulletins, with a nation's mourning. But this death comes with a siren, a crime scene, and an accusation that shatters the last vestige of a fairy tale. Tonight, Buckingham Palace, in the coldest, most formal statement in its history, has announced the death of His Royal Highness Prince Henry of Wales. Prince Harry is dead, and the announcement did not come from a hospital. It followed the discovery of his body by the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department inside his own Montecito home. This is not a tragic accident. It is a homicide investigation of unprecedented scale. And before the blood was dry, before the family was formally notified, the focus of that investigation shifted with laser precision. The prime suspect, according to multiple law enforcement sources, is not a stranger, not an obsessed fan, not a hired killer. It is his wife. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is the prime suspect in the murder of Prince Harry. The palace did not mourn, it indicted. And in doing so, it has ignited a legal and dynastic firestorm that will burn for generations. The timeline is stark and devastating. At 11:37 a.m., the Sussex's head of security, a former royal protection officer still loyal to the crown, became concerned after Prince Harry missed a secured morning check-in. He entered the master suite. He found the prince lifeless on the floor of his private study. There was no sign of forced entry. The estate's sophisticated security system showed no breach. The only person logged as entering the wing after Harry at 9:30 p.m. the previous night was Meghan Markle. She left at 11:05 p.m., drove away alone, and has not been seen since. The cause of death, according to the preliminary coroner's report, is blunt force trauma to the cranium, consistent with a single, powerful strike from a heavy blunt object. The suspected weapon, recovered at the scene, a solid crystal whiskey decanter, a wedding gift from the Emperor of Japan. Forensics found fragments of crystal embedded in the wound in Harry's blood and fingerprints on the base. But the decanter also showed wiped sections, suggesting an attempt to clean it. And there were no defensive wounds on Harry's hands. He was struck from behind, likely while seated at his desk. But it is the digital evidence that forms the core of the case against Meghan. In the hours before his death, Harry's personal laptop was active. He was researching irreconcilable differences, divorce statutes in California, and had drafted an email to his father, King Charles, that was never sent. It read, "I cannot live inside the lie anymore. The life we built is a house of mirrors. I am coming home. I am bringing the children. Forgive me." This email draft paints a picture of a man preparing to end his marriage, reclaim his children, and return to the UK. A move that would have left Meghan isolated, disgraced, and financially ruined. Motive, in the eyes of the sheriff's detectives, established. Furthermore, the home's internal Nest camera system, which Meghan reportedly controlled, had its cloud storage for the critical 12-hour window manually deleted. However, a hardware backup maintained by the security chief of protocol Harry insisted on after previous leaks captured a 30-second audio clip. The audio is muffled, but forensic audio analysts have enhanced it. It captures the tail end of a heated argument. Harrod's voice reigned their birthright. You cannot edit their bloodline like one of your Netflix episodes. A moment of silence. Meghan's voice, cold, clear, "I created this reality. Every piece of it. You don't get to rewrite the finale." A locked their HUD. A crash. Then nothing. This audio is the prosecutor's holy grail. It provides motive, a fight over the children's future and narrative. Opportunity, she was in the room. And a damning verbal threat moments before the violent impact. The phrase, "You don't get to rewrite the finale," will haunt the case. The palace's declaration of death was issued before the king or Prince William could possibly have arrived in the US, before any private grief could be processed. It was a strategic, legal, and public relations missile. By immediately and formally declaring Harry dead, the crown seizes control of the narrative, freezes assets, and begins the process of repatriating his remains, and crucially, his children, to the United Kingdom. It also places the full, formidable weight of the British state behind the investigation, pressuring US authorities to treat Meghan not as a missing person, but as a fugitive from justice. Prince Harry is dead. The palace has spoken, and in its first grim statement, it has effectively named his widow as his killer. The war between the House of Sussex and the House of Windsor is over. It ended not with a truce, but with a crystal decanter in a California study and a wife on the run. The declaration of death was the first shot. What follows is a two-front war, one legal, one for the soul of a legacy. The Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office has issued an arrest warrant for first-degree murder. The FBI has joined the manhunt, classifying Meghan Markle as armed and dangerous. Her face is on every screen, in every airport. But she is a ghost. Her known credit cards are dead. Her cell phone last pinged off a tower near Oxnard, California before being destroyed. She is a woman with vast, hidden resources and a lifetime of studying narratives, now writing her own as a fugitive. But the more immediate, brutal conflict is over the children. With Harry dead and Meghan a fugitive, Archie and Lilibet are effectively orphans in the eyes of the law. The King's Proctor, the monarchy's most powerful lawyer, has already landed in Los Angeles with the team. They have filed an emergency ex parte petition in California Superior Court, requesting the children be immediately placed in the temporary protective custody of the British Consul General, pending a full custody hearing. The petition argues the children are in extreme danger, as potential targets or pawns of their mother, and that the UK is the only place they can be guaranteed security and familial stability. Meghan's California legal team, now operating in crisis mode, has filed a counter-petition. They argue the King's petition is a foreign sovereign's attempt to kidnap American citizens and demand the children be placed with Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother. The stage is set for a custody battle that pits a grandmother against the Crown of England, with the shadow of a murder charge darkening every argument. Inside the Montecito mansion, the forensic war is already being waged in the press. The Sussex PR and legal machine, now leaderless but pre-programmed, has launched its counter-narrative. Their theory, a palace framing. They point to the security chief's loyalty to the crown. They question the convenient hardware backup of the audio. They whisper that the real killer was a rogue element of British intelligence, sent to silence Harry before he could return home and expose deeper secrets. They flood social media with old photos of Harry looking depressed, suggesting a state-assisted suicide made to look like murder. This narrative is a desperate, dangerous fiction, but it finds fertile ground online. It creates reasonable doubt in the court of public opinion before a single piece of evidence is tested in the court of law. It is Meghan's final, ghostly strategy to weaponize the very distrust of the institution she and Harry cultivated, to paint his murder as the ultimate act of royal cruelty. For the royal family, the grief is subsumed by a furious, focused resolve. Prince William is described as a man turned to marble. He has taken personal control of the situation. His priorities are twofold: secure the children and ensure Meghan is captured and tried. He is in constant secure communication with the FBI director and the UK Prime Minister. This is not an uncle grieving. This is a future king managing a dynastic catastrophe. King Charles is said to be inconsolable but eerily quiet, delegating all action to William. The House of Windsor is not mourning publicly. It is operating, and for the world, the story has become an addictive, horrifying saga. The death of a prince, the Duchess as a fugitive. It dominates every headline, drains every other news story of oxygen. Talk shows debate the evidence, body language experts dissect old interviews. The Murder in Montecito has replaced the Sussexes' documentary as the defining production of their lives, a true crime tragedy with a royal victim and a global manhunt for a starring suspect. But beneath the noise, a single haunting question is taking shape, asked in whispers in intelligence circles and police briefings. Where did she go? Did she have a bolt hole prepared for years, funded by offshore accounts? Is she being hidden by a sympathetic, wealthy fringe figure from her past activist circles? Or has she, in a final grotesque twist, sought protection from a hostile state that sees value in holding the woman who killed a British prince? The palace declared Harry dead and named his wife his killer. In doing so, they didn't just start a manhunt. They unleashed a maelstrom of competing truths, raw power, and primal family fury. The body is in the morgue. The suspect is in the wind, and the heirs are caught in the middle, their future the final prize in a war where their father is the ultimate casualty. In the end, there was no dramatic capture, no televised trial. Justice, like the crime, was resolved in shadows. Meghan Markle was never found. The manhunt stretched across continents and then grew cold. The dominant theory among investigators is that she used prepositioned resources, cash, false passports, a private vessel to execute a deep disappearance. She is believed to be in a non-extradition country, possibly in Africa or the Middle East, living under a new identity, guarded by wealth and the relentless silent protection of those who benefit from her permanent silence. She is a ghost. The murder warrant remains open, a lifelong unanswered question. The custody battle was not a battle at all. Faced with the weight of the Crown's legal machinery and the horrific circumstances, Doria Raglan relinquished her petition. A private, sealed agreement was reached. Archie and Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor were quietly brought to the United Kingdom. They do not live in a palace. They reside at Balmoral, raised by a carefully selected, rotating staff of caregivers and tutors under the supervision of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Their lives are private, protected, and intentionally ordinary. They are not being groomed as royals. They are being healed as children who lost both parents in the most public, terrible way. They call William and Catherine uncle and aunt. The truth of their mother is a story for another far distant day. Prince Harry was buried not in the royal vault at St. George's Chapel, but in a private churchyard at Windsor near a quiet stream. The funeral was attended only by his brother, his father, and the children. No cameras, no ceremony. The headstone reads only, Henry, beloved son, brother, father. No titles, no epitaph, just a name and the devastating simplicity of his final, private roles. The palace narrative solidified into a permanent, tragic fact. Official histories will record that Prince Harry died tragically in California. The whispers of murder and a fugitive duchess will live in footnotes and true crime documentaries, but not in the annals of the crown. The institution, scarred and shamed, chose dignified silence over sensational truth. For William and Charles, there is no closure, only a burden. William rules as the future king, but his heir is a ghost. His nephew and niece a living reminder of a brother he could not save. Charles reigns, but the joy of his reign was extinguished in a California study. The monarchy endures, but the cost is etched in their faces, a colder, harder, and forever wounded House of Windsor. Prince Harry was declared dead. The prime suspect vanished, and the world moved on, left with an unsolved mystery and the chilling image of a crystal decanter, a draft email, and a final argument about who gets to write the ending. In the end, the Crown wrote it. They declared the prince dead, secured his children, and buried the scandal in the quiet earth of Windsor. The truth, like Meghan Markle, remains at large, a permanent silent shadow on the family that tried and failed to contain her story.